Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. Little low energy right now, but I'll do the best I can. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating in this spiritual community, this Sangha. Thank you for not only your participation, but your practice with Sangha, but your practice on your own. Thank you for doing that. Want to help the world, train your mind so that you don't see your ideas, your conclusions, your hopes, and your fears, and all that crap. Instead, you see what is actually in front of you. And I'm not going to tell you what that is, other than to say that it's not separate from you. It's not something else. If you think it is, you'll fight with yourself, you'll fight with the world, and you'll make things worse in the world. Perhaps. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm incorrect. And thank you for your financial support and help. Couldn't keep going without that. Some of you are very able to do that, and some of you are not. So you know who you are. Do what you can. And you know how much or how little. It's up to you. I'm not here to decide those kinds of things for you or for anyone. The best thing you can do is your time. Give your time to this. Train your mind. I'll help you as much as I can. The title to today's Dharma talk is a little odd, but it's a title that I want to work from in order to teach, and that is yes, but
Okay.
it's okay. Thanks. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay, but okay, but that's it. Yeah. So I stand corrected. Okay, but so what is this doing? It's like it's the pretense of receiving. Someone says something to you, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, and you say, okay, but so you really don't even hear them. You want to just stop them so you can do your butts. You can butt in. So you can stop somebody. You need to receive what is showing up in front of you in the form of someone's voice, someone's presence, someone's facial expression. Please receive this, because if you can't, you'll continue to fight right from today, right until the time where you hit the funeral pyre or the grave, whatever may happen to you. It's not easy. And so it is not about not doing that. It's not about stopping that, changing something. That will change on its own if you see clearly what is happening when you say, okay, but. So you've had the pretense of saying okay means that you're saying to them, I heard what you said. You didn't hear what they said. If you're doing it that quickly, someone says this, or this, and I think this should happen and that should, and I think what you said there, what you did was this. You don't have time to bring all that in and look at that closely. So what is the presumption? That you already are right. You're already the one who is correct. You're not going to give them what is the conventional expression, the time of day. You're not asking for the time of day, just asking for a couple of minutes. Listen to people, even though you might think that you know who this person is, you know what they're likely to say, you know. Well, I've seen people who I've looked at them as they walk into the hojo or into our house or meet across the table in the restaurant and make an assumption that I know what they're going to say. And I've been wrong. I've been wrong in the sense that they are taking a different angle on something. They are beginning to understand something. that's the way in which you can help somebody is receive. Everybody wants someone to listen to them. Even if they're 7 years old, they need somebody to listen to them. Very, very important. It makes me want to weep. You ever been there? You know where I'm talking about, right? You ever been there? You ever been there? Have you ever been there? Of course you have. You've all been a child. Nobody listens to a 6-year-old. Well, maybe a few people. Listen, receive, receive, receive. Practice on your own mind, sitting practice of meditation, shikantaza, just precisely this. Sit and look at the mind stream without adding, subtracting, or dividing. Come to no conclusion about anything. And if you do come to a conclusion about something, be very, very, one more very aware that that's what you're doing. That is what is happening in consciousness. And if you are able to be very, very, very aware that that's what you're doing, when I say very, I'm saying just that, just aware of that, then you will see if there is the addition of what? The self, the personhood, the one who's experiencing this. Because that's what you have to see. By looking at what moves in the mind stream, you will eventually see that what moves in the mind stream is dependently risen, and then what you add to it is also dependently risen, but it promotes with the accompaniment of an apparent body in its illusion. By tying that me into this body, it perpetuates the singularity of an ego, a self that needs to go to war, wants to go to peace, wants to control. You want to control everything. Get control of yourself. Have you had anyone say that to you? And that just promotes the whole idea that you can do such a thing. You can't do that. This is why there are county sheriffs. This is why there are people in jail or locked up who are causes and conditions they had no help. They came out of the womb and immediately were thrown into a situation where the people who were supposed to be taking care of them were temporarily insane. Temporarily mean this lifetime. No one's permanently insane. There isn't anyone. But if you think there is someone, then that situation can perpetuate itself. Did you give me this talk title? So why did you give me that talk title?
You said it first.
But
I said that'd
didn't
make
I
a good talk time. Yes,
Yeah,
but
but did she correct me? Okay, but, or yes, but,
yes, but
you said yes, but. Then
That's
she
what I
said,
talked
okay.
about last Friday.
Huh?
That's what I was talking about last Friday, was yes, but.
So he
It's his
actually
fault.
thought about it. Thank you, sir. So appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Receive, receive, receive. What am I doing right now? A lot happens with this. A lot happens with our faces. A lot happens with our body position. A lot happens with our body position. Without even any words, we're just saying so much. And what I'm saying to you or suggesting to you, it was breaking my heart when I start to think about this. You have to see it. You have to receive it. You have to smell it, taste it, feel it, hear it. Smell it. All the senses are operating. Shut out one and all the other ones want to harmonize with that shut down. That's why you don't meditate with your eyes closed, which creates an illusion of calmness or softness or the illusion that you're being more and more aware. And this is just bullshit. Or maybe you see something I don't. Maybe you should go and teach others out of your incredible wisdom. Or you can consider if you want an or. for your boat. Or you could actually consider what I'm saying. And when you leave this room, think about this, that you are completely unique sovereignty in consciousness that is not a singularity called a being or a self, not even an entity. I mean, if you want to be an entity, you're going to get your chance. As soon as the body dies, and you get to be an entity if you want to, but you don't have to. You can see what this is and you can completely vanish. The singularity vanishes. Who you are can't vanish because it has not appeared. Amazing way of describing what this is fundamentally. You can do that. It's possible. If you're listening to me, there's that possibility. If you're not listening to me, I'm not saying there isn't that possibility, but there is probably less of a possibility. Go for a bike ride. Maybe later. You have a bike? So, is that a threat? Happy Father's Day, everyone who has participated in that aspect of being a being. So I'm gonna run out of coffee here pretty quick, but. So what's happening is as soon as you sit in front of anybody or talk to someone, if you are actually receiving, you might not even say yes or okay, either one. You might not say that. You might just be so completely receiving that there's no outflow whatsoever. You might just sit there. But receiving, but 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 I will go through that one more time. There's something comes towards you and you say, you acknowledge that it's coming towards you, but all you're doing is acknowledging the flow of air and the sound vibrations coming toward you. You aren't really hearing what is being said necessarily if you're going immediately from yes to but, or from okay, but so you already have some kind of structure in mind, which is called an opinion, a judgment, a preconception, an evaluation based on hope and fear. You don't have to do that. You could actually live your life right now, because as soon as you put a bunch of buts in there, you start to shut out the immediacy, the presence, without any positionality. You miss your life. And as we go along, the more I talk, the more I actually do what I'm trying to teach you to be aware of. I'm doing the same thing. You can't stop doing that necessarily by some kind of act of Congress, but you can see it, and then it will slow down of its own. It will just start to come apart of its own. It may take the rest of your life for that to happen. Questions, please, if you have any.
What is that need in us to be received?
Pardon me?
What is that need in us to be received?
What does that mean?
The need
The need. What is the need to be received?
Or what is the need to receive?
in us, yes.
You see it? What is it? Nothing actually occurs. Sir,
Use in mind. What is sovereignty without singularity?
the sovereignty without singularity is using concepts to address an aspect of consciousness that can only be, here we are, more words, understood if nothing is tightening down and nothing is loosening up. So nothing is becoming someone and nothing is discarding or getting rid of something. You know, passion, aggression, ignorance has no say-so. What does have a say-so there is the dependent origination. If there's still a human form, then you are the tree growing in the yard. You are the mouse being killed by a cat. You are that. You're not separate from it. So the sovereignty is everywhere. And yet it has no location in space. It has no location in time. Those are illusions. So the sovereignty has no central area, has no center, has no fringe, is the way it was spoken of by my teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, many years ago. More about that if you have it. Let's drag it out of me.
Is sovereignty tied to the body?
It's only tacitly tied to the body because the body's here. Pull your ear. What does that mean? Anything? It doesn't go in, it's just pulling on your ear, but it doesn't go somewhere else. Whereas everything else that's happening with the body is tied into some kind of should be, shouldn't be, is necessary, isn't necessary. The closest that can come to any kind of a concept is it's not necessary. You need to pull your ear. So it's sometimes looked at possibly as frivolousness or meaninglessness, or doesn't need to be done. But people who are pushing the boundaries of consciousness in the relative sense, pushing the boundaries, usually called artists in any of the disciplines, visual, auditory, even in food, any place where the sense fields are, there are people who are working in that area who are trying to push that area.
How is that physical autonomy not singularity?
Because that doesn't need anything. It just celebrates itself, which is not a singularity. It just celebrates. It's the common way this has been talked about in other places, which is, I think, has been misunderstood, is art for art's sake. Like we just make up stuff. Music is like that. Your appreciation of music. You have a strong appreciation of music. You actually make music, and it's just like that. It's just good. It feels good, and it doesn't have any explanation behind it. You can't explain why you like to listen to the mountain goats. Come on, give me some reason why you would listen to people that are not making any sense and making sounds that are. Why would they just stop singing, just say what they want to say? And why do they say what they say? Any of you heard the mountain goats? Should they listen to mountain goats? Mm-hmm. How about the glass animals? Should they listen to them? I think they should. They make even less sense than the mountain goats. Wouldn't you agree, Nisho? More? Further questions in this area are really good if you've had them.
Bowing, if I've already concluded something about someone that makes me resistant to receive anything from them,
Yes.
how can I receive?
You might not be able to right away. What you need to receive is the resistance, not them. Don't leave what is innately subjective for some kind of objective correction or change or treating them differently. Stay with, don't even maintain, don't stay with, but just look at that and don't try to change it. As soon as you see that it starts to not smell so good and feels kind of embarrassing, like I don't want to be a person with this kind of a feeling or emotion or position or ignorance, then just receive that, continue to receive, because that is the area where that hidden secret, or where that, I should say, that open secret is at, that there's not any solid being anywhere. That's what's covering it up, that opposing something, agreeing with something is even more difficult to see, not to mention ignoring, which is of the three poisons is the most challenging to deal with, because you don't even know about it. You just about have to be kicked in the shins to see that you're ignoring something. More about it if you have it.
Beach Valley. I think sometimes in the past, if I've talked to you about a specific person or something that I'm having difficulty with,
Yes,
you've said, how would you like to be them?
yes.
And that seems to flip things a little bit for me, so I've tried to use that to maybe
You can.
see the other person's side or just feel bad for them or something. Is
I think
that
that's,
too much?
I don't think so. I think that could be helpful. If you look at a person that's really confused and having trouble and maybe throwing a lot of sparks your way or kicking dust up in your face because of their wild and crazy shenanigans, whatever you may have, you could also say, well, how would you like to be dealing with that karma? Anybody, how would you like to deal? Would you like to be, you can't really see what it would be like to deal with their karma, because anytime you imagine that, you're dealing with your presumptions, your projections, and your possibly misinterpretations of who that person even is. Goes deep into that consciousness, not only may, but probably looks completely different to them. It may be worse, it may be better. They could even be on the borderlines or on the verge of having a deeper understanding of what they're dealing with. They may be endeavoring to try to really live their life as it shows up, instead of object to things by blaming others, object to things by hurting others, stay away from the singularity of their own karma as an apparent temporary individual. So, but you could do something with it yourself by just saying, well, it would be difficult to live that particular life because of what I'm seeing. Probably your projections, but those projections need to be based on something. And they very likely are based on ideas about or interpretations of what manifests that is the most abrasive to you or difficult. More?
Beach Valley. If we were able to receive fully from someone, would we
Able to receive what?
fully,
Fully.
could conclusions or resistance still show up?
Unlikely. If you receive it fully, you won't know what it is. If you receive it partially, you'll have ideas about what it is you're receiving and who they are and what they're up to and what they should change. Or you might have conclusions about, oh, I can see where I really wouldn't want to be them. That must be really hard. Any number of directions, positive, negative, neutral, in so many different directions. Some are very soft and fluffy, and some are very deep and sharp-edged and abrasive. But to completely receive anybody, nothing will happen. You will not know what it is. That's the beginning of seeing no self, no other. That's the beginning of seeing that everything is empty of what you think and full of what it is. And that fullness doesn't have any parts. And even fullness is an understatement. It is so completely total that even the word total doesn't work, because that means something's been added up. It's it's used. You need to say something. If you see this, if you understand it, if you feel it, receive it, that word of totality would probably show up in some way. And at the same time that shows up, you would realize that it misses what it actually is. The actuality of it is there can't be anybody. It's like Sokuzan in his Dharma talk on early Buddhist teachings was talking about the Buddha being an actor. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that teaching, but I understand what's being pointed at there. That But if you're nobody, then in order to actually teach, you'd have to kind of pretend that you're somebody long enough to teach. I think that misses the point. Because that's still dealing with a relative understanding of that. And the complete understanding of it is everything comes back, the whole shebang, all the dark corners, all the shadows, all the spider webs, all the claws and hammers come back because it's an illusion. So therefore, you actually get to be the karma that came into this lifetime, which is what the Buddha did, which is what a true teacher does. He, she, they are absolutely who showed up when they were 2 years old, who they were fighting with when they were 4 years old, and who was being punished when they were 6 years old. Not separate, just not real. More? Yes.
Xinlong, can we receive later what we are resisting at the moment if you return to that situation?
Yes.
John?
Have any questions? I wish you did. Can't you just crank up one question?
Give me a few minutes, maybe.
Ask it on behalf of others. Ask something of me that you know, that you're sure of. And
Adriana Bowie.
give me a moment, please.
Sorry.
Give me a moment, please. Thank you. Ask something of me that you know, or at least you have an idea of, and that you're pretty sure that I know, that you think maybe quite a few people here might not know. But if you ask that you may be asking it on their behalf. Does that make a little bit of sense? That's all I'm asking. But I know you already know. I'm not bullshitting you. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Michael? Okay, so I've got this, and I've got this. Can I get a yeah, this? A yes? Yes, can I? What am I saying? You know what I'm saying? Another no. Can anybody give me a yes? You can? Okay, what am I saying?
You said, ask something that I think I know, and I think you know, but I think other people might not know. Ask that.
Is that what I asked you? Okay. Aren't you guys sick of this? Aren't you guys just sick of samsara? It's just like day after day after day, bumping into this, running into that, feeling this, feeling that, up and down, back and forth. Okay, we have some more time. I'll come back and then, and you know what I'm asking you for. It's very simple, ordinary. You can do it. Adriana, go ahead.
Adriana bowing. Sokuzan, you said something a couple of days ago that has been resonating, and I've heard you say it before, but it struck a different chord this time. And it was the phrase that all dharmas are without blame.
Yes.
Could you say something more about that and how it might be connected to the yes, but?
Yes, but. So all dharmas mean a dharma is there's the dharma of the stick, it's wood, it's carved, it's a kotsu, it's used for this or that. It's a teaching stick, it's on a table. There's a dharma. There's a dharma of brushing your teeth. There's a dharma of frying eggs. There's a dharma of working on a car. There's the dharma of studying biology. There's the Buddha's dharma, which is all things are dependent. Arisen, everything comes from nothing comes from its own side, and everything is suffering, and on and on. The Buddha's dharma, or truth, or law, or form, or structure that seems to have some kind of strong reference point, and to say that all dharmas, that means everything, all dharmas are without blame. It means that all dharmas are without a cause. They have no cause. They have a temporary cause someone carved this, a tree. This came out of a tree, part of a tree. If we were to go back in time, this would disappear in the tree. All the forms, the shapes, the sanding, the structure, the amazing carving that Ian, what was it, Ian Forsberg? Ian Forsberg made this stick, and Sokuzan gifted this teaching stick to me, and after having Ian make that kotsu or nyoi. So without blame, it just means that they don't appear to come from over there, or this wasn't happening before, but then 10 minutes later it happened. There's that other illusion of time, the 10 minutes, the 20 minutes, the 10 days, the 70 years, or whatever it may be, without cause, without blame, without coming from somewhere. It doesn't have a source. It is dependently arisen. It's just, it doesn't even all rise at the same time. That would be also more relativity described as this time, some other time when it didn't happen. It's worse than that, it's better than that. And to tie it into okay, but, or yes, but, is just to say that you're interrupting the very consciousness that in order to reinforce the presence of somebody going somewhere, somebody succeeding, somebody failing, somebody having valid feelings, somebody having feelings they shouldn't be having, somebody having feelings that are caused by that guy or that situation. That's what we're trying to control of when we say okay, but, or yes, but. Okay, but. So what's coming to us, we are endeavoring to stop that so that we can have an outflow on top of that and disagree, or maybe agree a little bit. It's like when we say okay, but we're kind of agreeing a little bit, but perhaps not. So this is why it's so important to be aware of this. This is why the sitting practice of meditation, awareness practice will help you. It won't do it for you, but it will help you over time. Over time, the illusion of time, begin to see the way you keep stopping your life from happening. You miss your life by something comes at you because it doesn't smell good, doesn't taste good, doesn't look good, doesn't sound good. And you, before you even give it a chance to enter your heart, who you are is not threatened, but who you think you are is threatened and will fight and is fearful and will come back and challenge and say, yes, but okay, but the way I look at that is this is da 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 da. Or you think of what you're saying there is correct, but look what you're saying over here. Look what you said just 10 minutes ago. I mean, if you run up against somebody who is highly intelligent, say twice as intelligent as you are, it doesn't, right and wrong can be set aside because that person will be able to turn you in circles with their ability to handle reason and logic. You wouldn't want to get into a family dispute over the kitchen table with Nietzsche, let alone, what's that guy's name?
Shut up.
Huh? Shogo? Oh, I thought you were going to say that German philosopher. Give me his name. What's his name? Huh?
Wittgenstein.
What?
Adriana bowing. I have more Sokuzan.
Just a minute. I'm trying to get this philosopher's name.
Wittgenstein.
Is it Witt or Witt? Wittgenstein. Is it Wittgenstein or Wittgenstein? I like that. What a mudra. Who knows? I have no idea. That's what you should do, is sit for 8 hours and at the end of the 8 hours go. Wonderful. Wonderful. It's an expression of.
Can you describe that for people who don't?
Oh, that's right. I have to describe, how many people in here do I have to describe that visual situation for?
People who missed it?
Okay,
because
so
they-
what I did, it's interesting, this is what we do with photographs, is we put a photograph on, and then we describe what's on the photograph, and that way Sanho can see what it is. Is that correct, Sanho?
Basically.
I couldn't have said it better myself, and the tone of voice was exquisite. Basically. So anyway, I threw my hands in the air as if to say, WTF. Do I have to, I don't have to paint a picture of that WTF, do I? You're being very sullen this morning. Sean knows it. Well, it's still morning for 5 more minutes. Further questions, and I'll try to be not to be too silly. Adriana, go ahead.
Adriana, appreciate your silliness. My question, sometimes when I'm receiving someone, I have a sense that there is something that is not being said, or I'm reading between the lines, or I'm receiving something that isn't in words. Should I listen to that, receive that too, or is that adding to what is being given to me? Bowing.
But just receive. Don't worry about whether you're adding or not adding or not receiving. Don't leave what's showing up for thoughts about it or whether you should or shouldn't do nothing with it. Just receive it en masse. Receive, gobble it right down. Don't even chew. Just swallow it. Chewing is thinking. Don't gnaw on anything. If it's too big to fit in your mouth, then wait till it. I mean, you can just keep your mouth closed. Wait till it. And I'm just using this as a metaphorically. Wait till it changes its size. You don't have to change yourself into another shape to accommodate somebody's bullshit, but you might need to receive their bullshit. You might need to receive that from others without elaboration around how they're wrong or their misunderstanding or why should I even listen to such an idiot? Might need to listen to that person. Everyone is suffering. Everyone wants to be happy. But
Beyond bowing, when engaging with someone with a strong intellect, or maybe it's not even very strong, it's just somebody we believe has a stronger intellect than our own. What is it that even allows us to get spun into circles?
thinking about it. As soon as that happens, then because they're probably producing out of thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. And as you said, they're pretty good at it. So they're able to do that. And then you want to go in and work with them in that area. You should just receive as much as you can. I know better than to argue with anybody about anything. Anybody here at all? Well, other than maybe Sokuzan. Do I argue with you? No. I like that. That was that same Sokukoji Mudra. WTF. Do I argue with anyone? Has anyone heard me argue about anything? Do I argue with you? I dare you. Gives me an argument. No, really, we talk quite a bit. So do I argue with you?
The only thing that's coming to mind is like an area where we don't see the same thing and you
Okay.
return me to that. And that doesn't particularly feel like arguing, but it has maybe a quality of that.
It's because I don't agree with you. And so that's probably just what I say. I don't agree. My memory of it is that. So more about that if you have. That's a good area. I think we all run into some version of that.
Beyond bowing, you said it's the thinking that allows us to get turned into circles.
Yes.
So is it the thinking, or is it the,
So
well, or the responding or the outflow from the
yeah,
thinking?
it's being unaware of what thinking is, and thinking that you're thinking is somehow self-validating. If you're thinking it, it must be true, or if you're feeling it, it must be true. And to one who is clear, they don't believe their thoughts. They don't disbelieve their thoughts. They don't ignore their thoughts. So what does that leave you with? Nobody. Except the suffering that's in front of you. And that shows up, how that shows up to someone who is liberated or clear or whatever fancy word you want to use. However that shows up, all that person is seeing is suffering. In the form of someone who's struggling. They may be very clear. They may have been meditating for a long time. They may have a lot of clarity. But when they come in front of the teacher, they have to be completely clear if they're a student of that teacher. If they're not completely clear, then there's going to be rough edges. You follow that?
Bune bowing,
Do you know when you're thinking and when you're not thinking? I'm not talking about stopping thinking. Misunderstand. Don't try to stop your thoughts. Just be aware of the thoughts. If you're aware of the thoughts slowly over time, here's the thought process happening. And at some point over time, my friends, the thinking process and the area in which the thoughts are, the area in which the thoughts arise starts to not so much separate, but the consciousness that is the space in which the thoughts come and go is no longer at the mercy of the thoughts that are arising in it. So one is no longer a prisoner of the space inside the prison. You're liberated in the space. There's liberation. And so therefore there's no, but yet anyone who is operating in that, who is still caught in their emotions, their feelings, their judgments, their conjunctions, their opinions, that person's going to be trapped. And if you run into a person who is more adept at thinking than you are, they might be also suffering, but you're not going to win. But you don't have to win. You can just receive, just lose. Be their friend, no matter what. And how do you do that? Be with all things. Very, very difficult. Are you their teacher? Then all you have to do is be their friend. That doesn't mean agree. They might think you're agreeing because you're not fighting with them. But you don't have to conquer that mountain. The mountain is in your mind. You don't have to conquer it. Well,
couple things.
please do.
Bune bowing, one that stood out to me is that you asked me if I know if I'm thinking or if I'm not thinking, and
Yes.
how could one know if they're not thinking
Consciousness.
to think it?
Consciousness. They don't, you don't do it with thinking. Thinking does it itself, but you don't really do it with thinking, just consciousness only. The consciousness only sees the illusion, sees the unreality, and also sees the belief in that illusion at the same time. More. Don't hesitate.
Bune bowing, I'm thinking about thinking and you're talking about consciousness, and I don't, what are thoughts in unreality? Or
They don't have any stickum on them. They don't have they're self-existing, so they come and go, but they don't hook up to make up, just like the five skandhas don't hook together to create the belief in a solid being. The thoughts show up and then they might look for some kind of justification with the next thought, but they just come and go and come and go. They just show up. There's no thinking happening here. It's not a wonderful credential that I have, or not at the mercy of my thoughts, and you guys are. I don't mean that. I'm just saying that it's very simple and it's very difficult. It can take a lifetime to see that you are not your thoughts. It's like saying the thoughts are not real. They just show up, come and go. They show up situationally. You need to find out where the coffee cup is at, and you need to find out how to, maybe you've spilled something, what you can get. So a very simple thinking process is going on. Chop wood, carry water kind of thing, but nothing beyond that. Unless you are a Dharma teacher, or unless you are not clear about who you are. Your Dharma teacher, you'll show up as the person that shows up in front of you. You can't help it because it's a mirror. the person comes in front of you and you're nobody, to say it, speak of it that way, no solid center. And then the person who has a solid center, they're going to fight with themselves or agree with themselves or ignore themselves. You have more?
So Grand Valley, in the meditation instruction, it said, look at the space between yourself and the wall. Please teach me how to look at space.
Look at the objects in the space. Look at the wall. And look at your preconception about the subjectivity that is observing the wall. You can see the wall, but you can't see that. I mean, you can see your hand, but you can't see this being. But there's an assumption that you're here and you're looking at the wall and there's a space between your body and the wall. One of the teachers who this might be helpful to some people and might not. It helped me a little bit, but I didn't spend much time with a book called On Having No Head by D.E. Harding, written back in, I think, in the 50s. And he was endeavoring to help people see that they were not a separate being by saying that you really can't see your own head. I mean, you look in the mirror, but that's a reflection. But you can't really find this separation of you. And that's kind of what's happening in Shikantaza. You can see the wall, you can see the back of your hand, you can see your mudra. I mean, you can't really see your entire area. And I don't think the concentration on the head is necessarily that important, because you can't actually see your neck either. You can't see the back of your head. So the spaciousness is the consciousness itself, rather than something you're looking at. That brought up a smile on your face. Where did that arrive from?
Someone's excited.
Huh?
Someone is excited.
I am too. I'm excited. Unless I meet somebody who's sad and unhappy, then I'm sad and unhappy. And then if they get excited, then I get excited. If they run in circles, I run in circles. I couldn't teach if I was somehow aloof and separate from everybody here. I couldn't do it. I couldn't teach in the way I teach. I'm not saying you can't teach some other way. Of course you can. Let me see if where Jay's answer. Are you ready to nail me to the bulwark?
With the teaching of yes, but the one that shows up most strongly is the exceptions we take to the Dharma when our actual lives present us with a situation such as taking responsibility for our emotions or receiving everything as a teaching to turn a gun out towards the world. And I'm wondering how we can begin to take those teachings from concepts into recognizing them in the way we actually reject them with a but when our situation seems so valid that the teachings don't apply.
So thank you. So do it with not so much with when our situation seems powerful or strong. That's what you're pointing at. Is that true?
Yes, anything that comes up and we actually would rather have resolution,
Yes.
have comfort instead of
Gotcha.
recognizing.
Yes, I'm saying that's the dependent origination. We really don't have a lot of say-so over it. How your son acts. I mean, you say a little bit, but he's going to be roomy on some level, on many levels, on just about every level, from what I've seen. Astonishingly independent fellow who is very young. So that's forced to be dealt with, as they say conventionally. But the area that you're asking about and that I am very, very anxious to address is is we need to see the very tiniest movement in consciousness that moves away from what is being received to what is being added, and that to watch the adding. And it's very tempting when we see the addition is to try to find a way to stop adding, even though that part of the teaching is don't add. But as I've said hundreds of times, the reason I teach it that way is because I want you to be very aware that what shows up dependently risen out in the apparent out here is added on by commentary or emotions or feelings or thoughts by the mind stream we call the ego or the self-centeredness or the seventh consciousness. So it is about observing that very tiny movement. And they're at first, when we first start, they're quite strong. We can see how some thoughts come up and we're adding stuff on, opinions, ideas, judgments, conclusions. But there is a more refined area where it goes from it's an area of what you're feeling and then what you want to do with the feeling. And to watch that, what you want to do with the feeling, sometimes called desire. And then what we actually begin to do, which can happen on a very rudimentary level in the consciousness of grasping. In other words, finding an area on what we wish to have that we can pull on, finding an area on which we wish to have to go away that we can push on. So that's pulling, pushing, and then shutting out. Those are the three poisons that happening in a microcosmic universe of consciousness. And that needs to be seen, because that's the very tiny, it's even the size area doesn't work only through description, but it's about seeing that, so that if you do it, it's about witnessing it. And your particular karma or mine, once you see it, you don't have to stop it. If you're aware of it, then you know that what's coming and going, any grasping you do in the mind stream, before then, it's still a discipline, still a path. But once it's fruition, then it doesn't matter what happens, because there's no longer a self. There's no longer the belief in an entity who wants or doesn't want or needs or doesn't need anything. There's no demand on anything. More?
How does one work with the reverse of that when we are somebody else's but? Yes, but you did this, or you are an obstruction.
It's situational. It depends a lot on who it is and what your relationship already is with that person. And it could be any number of things, depending on whether you're functioning as their teacher or whether you're a fellow worker in the mines, or whether you're the person's brother, or all the different variables come into play, and they're you can't really change those or say, well, I don't want to be this in this relationship. I want another kind of relationship. So all of that taken into considerations, you may do one of any number of things, including rejecting that person by saying, I've had enough of this crap. I don't want to talk to you anymore. That could happen. I'm not saying it will. I'm not validating it. I'm not giving you, you don't need my permission anyway, but I'm not giving you or anyone permission to just be mean or offensive to someone else. It can't come out of your emotional reaction, your hatred, or your just dissatisfaction. You have to receive until you actually see what it is. If you see what it is, you may be able to reject that situation without any hatred or without any dissatisfaction, particularly at all. Am I getting close or more? You have anything else in that area? I'm happy to go in that area if you want to. Good question.
I don't yet.
Okay, very good question. Yes, sir.
Shadow bowing. Are emotions part of the cocoon of ego?
They can be, but the important thing as a practice for any of us here, this person all is just to receive whatever you feel, just receive it. Everything is completely appropriate in terms of the understanding of dependent origination. It's what when as a person, when part of consciousness that is balled up into curled up into a knot of me, which operates out of passion, aggression, ignorance, for like trying to be somebody identified with a body form, not right in your heart center, doesn't like that. And wants to, and will get people on their side like we see in politics everywhere. Just a incredible insanity going on. It is so disrespectful to the conventional word would be the human condition of suffering. Very difficult. But so the emotions are to be received. If emotion, as I've said many times, I'll say it again, anything that arises in there in the form of emotions or thoughts, the leading edge of that, the emotion that has been triggered by this or this, just receive it. Don't add anything to it. And if you do add something to it, then just be aware of that, because then it falls in line with the original dependent origination, which is not separate from the imaginary self, but it's still not used as warfare to support the imaginary self. It's just included. We just include it. It doesn't feel good. You may not be enlightened, but at least you're not at war with everything. As Trungpa Rinpoche once said, you may not awaken, but at least you'll stop being a nuisance to everyone.
In the spiritual path, or for some time on the path, actually tighten down or make the ego, make the ego tighter.
Can you paraphrase?
In a part of our path, actually be going through an area where we're strengthening the ego.
What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think? Can you paraphrase that again? I thought you would bite. You're not going to bite. I think that it can, relatively, of course, it could strengthen it, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what happens. I'm not talking about this dismissively. I'm not saying, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't mean that kind of doesn't matter. I'm saying that it, because of the nature of what this actually is, the situation actually is, it doesn't matter in that sense, and that nothing actually causes anything else. All dharmas are without blame. So therefore, you might have some catching up to do, so to speak. Just observe. Be as soft as you can without going to war and demanding softness. Brian.
How can we be friends with the ego when it seems to pull us down a path of delusion?
Oh, that might be a good area to try to be friendly with, so that you can, that doesn't mean you have to deliberately go in that direction, but if you seem to be pulled into that, be aware of it. Be aware of that self-centeredness that is operating in that way and trying to get you to spin out and re-soul your ego and put new heels on it so it's stronger. Just be aware of that. Awareness is what it's about. So you just came out of a 10-day solitary retreat. Pretty good question to come out of that retreat with. So it's about awareness as you are finding out, not about fixing anything. You don't have to, the ego is unreal. That's what has to be seen. There is no solid being called me or you. Sure looks like it. And as long as we're in this realm, or the human realm, or the 6 realms, we need to deal with that until even after the body dies. Anything that you misunderstand here can be carried into that consciousness, or not. Maybe everything vanishes and nothing happens. I think we're at the end of our sojourn. So, any announcements or anything? Anybody want to? Did you have a question? It seemed like I left you out a while back.
Kabali, there's quite a few on YouTube.
Well, give me the most interesting one.
Shane Bowing, why is it there's always some asshole out there who ruins things for everything? Is that a cosmic joke?
That's gotta be Shane Thompson.
I was thinking.
Shane, back on your bike. It's just the nature of, I don't want to be too disrespectful to the question because it's a pretty good question. It's just the nature of dependent origination of people trying at their best to be happy and to get what they want, to fulfill their heart's desire, to become famous, or and yet we're all given different abilities. Some people are extremely intelligent, some people are extremely magnetic and charismatic and handsome, and some people are gifted with that somehow, and the causes and conditions are just beyond, you can't trace them, you can't find first cause, you can't find the blame or the cause for any of that. It's not that there isn't something there, it's just it is so incredibly vast and discontinuous that it doesn't create straight lines from this to that anywhere. It's better than that, actually. It's consciousness only. Consciousness only. Consciousness dancing. Just to use a culturally accessible image or metaphor for the movement of something where there's complete harmony in it. This is moving, that's moving. This, to someone grasping on singularity, they may be in the middle of a war. And that's probably going to happen because of the intense desire, demand, and greed of some people who are incarnated. Not everyone. I think as Dalai Lama was saying once, that just a small number of people that are creating problems. How did he say that? That most of the world is
Just trying to live.
just trying to live and raise their family. So, you have a more interesting one than that?
I like this one from Damien Bowing.
Who?
I'm not sure who it is. It says Mr. DR, and then he says Damien Bowing.
Okay, Damien.
Does receiving ever get easier?
No, doesn't need to. Doesn't need to get easier. It could get easier, but unlikely. If you're on this path, if you're listening to me, probably going to get more and more difficult. Because when I say because, this is the kind of cause that's hard to find, any kind of blame or first cause for it. But it's you have been probably covering things up for all of your life. And now you're in a situation where you are being asked, it is being suggested, I am teaching, sit down and look at the confusion, look at the chaos. This is all the Buddha did. This is why the first words out of his mouth, as the teaching goes, life is suffering. This is an astonishing teaching. We have nerve endings, not comfortable to be a living being, but that is not exactly what you are. This is very temporary. This is just a temporary. It's like waiting in a bus station somewhere. Thank you so much.
Make the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Ji-ho san shi shi-fu, shi-son bu-sa mo-ko-sa, mo-ko-ho-ja-ho-ro-mi. The 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokokoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light.